Hello, grade 6 students, and welcome to this lesson of Module 3, which is Project Part 1. As usual, you need to know why you're watching this video. In other words, you need to know the learning objectives of this lesson. Number 1, read 4 text messages to answer a question. Number 2, identify the features of 2 types of text messages. As you can see, in this lesson, we're going to focus on text messages. To be able to follow me, please bring your student's book and have it opened on page 37, and don't forget to bring a pen and a blank sheet of paper to take notes when needed. Look at this exercise. Exercise 1, and let's read the instructions together. Below are some text messages. What are they about? So this is the question that we need to answer. What are they about? In this exercise, you have 4 text messages. 2 are on the left-hand side of this page, which are these. And the other 2, which are 3 and 4, are on the other side. Let's move on to answer the question. Don't forget, what are the text messages about? Let's start with the first text message, which is written by Betty. Let's read it together to answer the question. Hi, Judy. I've got a problem with my sister. She always takes my clothes, but she never asks me first. Last week, she took my favorite jumper. There is a hole in it now. What should I do? So, let's focus on these 2 sentences which are underlined in blue to get the answer for the question. I've got a problem. So, the message is about a problem. Also, Betty is asking Judy, what should I do? Which is asking for advice. So this message is about a problem, and at the end of the message, Betty is asking for advice, saying, what should I do? Let's move on to number 2. Message number 2 is a reply to message number 1. It's written by Judy to Betty. Let's read what Judy has written. Hi, Betty. I understand your problem. I think you should talk to your sister. Tell her to ask you before she borrows your things. You can borrow her things too. So the question is, what is this message about? Actually, when we look at you should and tell, we see that this message is giving advice. So Judy is giving pieces of advice to Betty in order to deal with the problem she is facing with her sister. Let's go to number 3. Text message number 3, which is written to Fred. Let's read it together. Fred, I need your help. My brother got a new tablet. I wanted to play a game, so I took it after I finished my homework. While I was playing, I dropped it, and the screen broke. I'm in trouble. Can you help me, please? So, the question is, what is the text message about. If we look at these two phrases, or actually three phrases, I need your help, I'm in trouble, can you help me? We know that this message is written to ask for advice. So the writer of this message is asking for advice. Let's see the reply to this message, which is number 4. Text message number 4, let's read it together. You should apologize to your brother and explain what happened. You can also fix it for him. Don't worry, Harry. It's going to be all right. So, if we look and focus on this phrase, which is you should, we will know that the writer of this message is giving advice to the recipient, the person who will read the message. And if we go to these phrases, like don't worry, it's going to be all right, we know that the writer has written these phrases in order to give encouragement. He wanted to give encouragement to the recipient, the person who will read the message, or will receive the message. And now it's time to know the types of these text messages that we have in this lesson. If we focus on text messages number 1 and 3, we can see that these messages are written to ask for advice. And messages number 2 and 4 are written in order to give advice. So, in this lesson, we have 2 types of text messages: an asking for advice message and a given advice message. Let's analyze them to see the features of these 2 types of text messages. Let's start analyzing this text message. To write a text message like this, you need to start with hi and the name of the person who will receive the message in order to say who you are writing to. After that, if you are writing a text message to explain a problem and ask for advice, you need to write a phrase like this: I have got a problem, in order to explain the problem after this phrase. And at the end of the text message, after you explain your problem, you may write a phrase like, what should I do? In order to ask for help or ask for advice. So, to write a text message to ask for advice, you need to start the text message with saying who you are writing to. After that, you explain the problem, and at the end, you ask for advice. Let's move on to the next type of text messages. This message is an example of a text message which is written to give advice. As usual, and like the previous message, you start with hi and the name of the person who will receive the message in order to say who you're writing to. After that, you may write a phrase like, I understand your problem, in order to show understanding, show that you have got the problem and you understand the problem and you can give advice after that. After that, you may use you should or the infinitive of the verb in order to give advice. So, you say who you're writing to, you show understanding, and then you give advice in order to write a text message to give advice to a friend. In this text message of giving advice, the writer has written, don't worry, it's going to be all right. So, in a message, of giving advice, you may write phrases like this: don't worry, or it's going to be all right, in order to give encouragement, to encourage the person who has the problem. Now it's time to sum up what we have learned in this lesson. This lesson is about writing text messages. In fact, we have mentioned two types. One which aims at asking for advice, and the other one that aims at giving advice. You can follow 3 steps in writing these types of text messages. Step 1, which is the same for both of them, is to say who you're writing to. For example, hi Salim. Step 2, in case of asking for advice, is to explain your problem. You can use few phrases like I've got a problem with, I'm in trouble, and then you write the problem details. However, in case of giving advice, step 2 is to show understanding using phrases like I understand your problem, I know what you're talking about. Step 3, in case of giving advice, is to ask for help or advice using phrases like can you help me please, or you can say what should I do. But if you are giving advice, step 3 is to give advice using phrases like I think you should, or you can say you can, or you can use the imperative. Also, you may give encouragement after giving the advice using phrases like don't worry, it's going to be all right. At this point of the lesson, I hope you have achieved the learning objectives, which have targeted the features of 2 types of text messages. In other words, you should be able to write a text message whether you need to ask for advice or give advice. Now, it's time to say goodbye, hoping you have enjoyed learning with us. See you next time and stay safe.